The Apocalypse of Ezra. Behold, speak in the ears of my people the words of this prophecy, which I will put in your mouth, says Yahuah. We live in grievous times. The apocalypse unexpected of Ezra. Behold, times when we did not expect the things to come upon the earth that we now see upon the earth, that those who study these things and who are aware of what is coming upon the earth realize that we see signs of mass famine and pandemic, signs of climate change and apocalypse, signs of great trials and wars and rumors of wars, and earthquakes in diverse places. Incredible things coming upon the earth. Men's hearts have not yet failed in fear, but we seem to be on the precipice of this. Yet, did someone teach of this before? Yes, a prophecy from ancient days from the 5th century BC comes to life in the writing of Ezra, in a book called To Esdras, but also known as For Ezra, a book that is easily found in the Cepher Millennium Edition, a book that was commonly kept in the Apocrypha, was published in Coverdale's Great Bible of 1539, in John Calvin's Geneva Bible of 1560, of King James' authorized version of the Bible in 1611, in the Brown Bible of 1834, in the Benjamin Blaney edition of the King James of 1789. Yes, the Apocrypha has been with us, and the incredible writing that is found in 2 Esdras or 4th Ezra has been deleted from most people's Bible because an editor said that it didn't belong there. Does your text have it? Have you missed out on being able to reference the Apocalypse of Enoch, the Apocalypse of Baruch, the Apocalypse of Ezra in your text because these books are missing? Just as a word of reassurance, these books are all found in the Cepher Millennium Edition. Baruch, the Apocalypse of Baruch, Enoch or Hanok, Yophalim or Jubilees, Yashar or Jasher, 1st Esdras, or what we call 3rd Ezra, 2nd Esdras, or what we call 4th Ezra, 1st Maccabees, 2nd Maccabees, 3rd Maccabees, 4 Maccabees. Are you missing these books? If you are, you're missing part of the story, incredibly important parts of the story. How much of the wisdom of Solomon have you missed? Or the wisdom of Sirach have you missed? Or the teaching of Tobiah, which reveals so much? Yes, there are many things to be learned concerning walking out a journey of faith, but most importantly, walking out a journey of faith in the name of Yahuah, a name that is set forth in the Cepher, and in particularly set forth in the Cepher and almost no other texts that want to hedge their bet by giving you a Paleo-Hebrew rendition of the name so that you can understand that the name is there, but have no idea how to pronounce it in the English language. And yet Mashiach said, I have declared your name unto them and will declare it, that the love of you that is in me might be in them, and I in them. Such an important aspect of the walk. All of these things have been carefully articulated in the Cepher. And if you don't have a copy, you can get one at cepher.net. And if you want further study, a more detailed study on some of these issues, you can join us at cepheracademy.net. I want to thank you, subscribers, for being here today. Sorry about the late notice in presenting this particular text. I got bogged down with all kinds of things here today. But it is good to be here this afternoon and this evening and to be discussing these things with you who have subscribed and are participating in the chat room. It is so good to hear from you and to see you and to know that you're very, very important to this ministry as you help this ministry move forward. And I want to encourage you, for those of you who are looking around, to encourage others also to take advantage of the Cepher and get your copy while we can still produce it at the price we're producing it. We are actually struggling greatly to be able to hold that price point. And all participation really helps the team at Cepher.net. Also, when you go to Cepher.net, for those who haven't been there before, you will discover that there's more than 400 blogs, and I have a new blog coming up here in the next couple of days. And there are all of these videos that we have done here on YouTube can also be obtained there at Cepher, including videos that have been taken down because they violated censorship rules. Those videos are also available at Cepher.net. We also have podcasts. We have Cepher Radio. We have copies of Radio Free Alaska. We also have the podcasts from the Sabbath meets that are broadcast there. And they're broadcast across a whole assembly of podcasting formats. So you should be able to catch them if you're driving truck or another place where you need something to listen to. We have all of that is available immediately on the website through Cepher.net. There are additional free downloads there. Some people find important, like this year's calendar, or Ezekiel in its original format, or the true Hebrew copy of Jasher, or maybe you're looking for the preface to the Yom Kodesh so that you can understand the calendar system. All of these tools are available at Cepher.net. Please visit. It would make our team feel really good if you did. Okay, with that being said, let's continue with the Apocalypse of Ezra. Behold, speak in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in your mouth, says Yahuah, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Fear not the imaginations against you. Let not the incredulity of them trouble you that speak against you, for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. This is in 4 Ezra, Ready E, beginning in chapter 15, verse 1. Behold, says Yahuah, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. For wickedness has exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and in their hurtful works are fulfilled. Therefore, says Yahuah, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit. Neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and righteous blood cries unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually. And therefore, says Yahuah, I will surely avenge them, and receive unto me all the innocent blood from among them. Behold, my people are led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Mitzrayim, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Mitzrayim with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. Mitzrayim shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that Elohim shall bring upon it. They that till the ground shall mourn, for their seeds shall fail through the blasting and hail, and with the fearful constellation. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draws nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and the invading of one another. And they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able to. For because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled. The houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods, because of the lack of bread, and for great tribulation. Behold, says Elohim, I will call together all the kings of the earth to reverence me, which are from the rising of the sun, from the south, from the east and Lebanon, to turn themselves one against another and repay the things that they have done to them. Like as they do yet this day unto my chosen, so will I do also, and recompense in their bosom. Thus says Yahuah Elohim, my right hand shall not spare the sinners, and my sword shall not cease over them that shed innocent blood upon the earth. The fire is gone forth from his wrath, and has consumed the foundations of the earth, and the sinners like the straw that is kindled. Woe to them that sin and guard not my commandments, says Yahuah. I will not spare them. Go your way, ye children, from the power, and defile not my sanctuary. For Yahuah knows all of them that sin against him, and therefore delivers he them unto death and destruction. For now are the plagues come upon the whole earth, and ye shall remain in them. For Elohim shall not deliver you, because ye have sinned against him. Behold, a horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east, where the nations of the dragons of Arab shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon the earth, and all they which hear them may fear and tremble. Also the Carmanians, raging in wrath, shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come, and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of Ashur. And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature. And if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them, then these shall be troubled, bled, and keep silence through their power, and shall flee. And from the land of Ashur shall the enemy besiege them, and consume some of them, and in their host shall be fear and dread and strife among their kings. Behold, clouds from the east and from the north unto the south, and they are very horrible to look upon, full of wrath and storm. They shall smite one upon another, and they shall smite down a great multitude of stars upon the earth, even their own star, and blood shall be from the sword unto the belly, and dung of men unto the camel's hoof. And there shall be great fearfulness and trembling upon the earth. And they that see the wrath shall be afraid, and trembling shall come upon them. And then shall there come great storms from the south and from the north, and another part from the west. Strong wind shall arise from the east, and shall open it, and the cloud which he raised up in wrath And the stars stirred to cause fear toward the east and west wind shall be destroyed. The great and mighty clouds shall be puffed up full of wrath, and the star, that they may make all the earth afraid, and them that dwell therein. They shall pour out over every high and eminent place a horrible star, fire and hail and flying swords and many waters, that all fields may be full and all rivers with the abundance of great waters. And they shall break down the cities and the walls, mountains and hills, trees of the wood, grass of the meadows, and their grain. And they shall go steadfastly unto Babel, and make her afraid. They shall come to her, and besiege her. The star and all wrath shall they pour out upon her. Then shall the dust and the smoke go up unto the heaven, and all they that be about her shall bewail her. And they that remain under her shall do service unto them that have put her in fear. And you, Asia, that are partaker of the hope of Babel, and are the glory of her person, woe be unto you, you wretch, because you have made yourself like unto her, and have decked your daughters in whoredom, that they might please and glory in your lovers, which have always desired to commit whoredom with you. You have followed her that is hated in all her works and inventions. Therefore, says Elohim, I will send plagues upon you, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence, to waste your houses with destruction and death. And the glory of your power shall be dried up as a flower. The heat shall arise that is sent over you. You shall be weakened as a poor woman with stripes, and as one chastised with wounds, so that the mighty and lovers shall not be able to receive you. Would I with jealousy have so proceeded against you, says Yahuah, if you had not always slain my chosen, exalting the stroke of your hands and saying over their dead when you were drunken, set forth the beauty of your countenance? The reward of your whoredom shall be in your bosom. Therefore shall you receive recompense. Like as you have done unto my chosen, says Yahuah, even so shall Elohim do unto you, and shall deliver you into mischief. Your children shall die of hunger, and you shall fall through the sword. Your city shall be broken down, and all yours shall perish with the sword in the field. They that be in the mountains shall die of hunger, and eat their own flesh, and drink their own blood, for very hunger of bread and thirst of water. You as unhappy shall come through the sea and receive plagues again. And in the passage, they shall rush on the idol city, and shall destroy some portion of your land, and consume part of your glory, and shall return to Babel that was destroyed. And you shall be cast down by them as stubble, and they shall be unto you as fire, and shall consume you and your cities and your land and your mountains, all your woods and your fruitful trees shall they burn with fire. Your children shall they carry away captive, and look, what you have, they shall spoil it and mar the beauty of your face. Now we turn to Ezra chapter 16, beginning in verse 1. Woe be unto you, Babel and Asia. Woe be unto you, Mitzrayim and Aram. Gird up yourselves with cloths of sack and hair. Bewail your children and be sorry, for your destruction is at hand. A sword is sent upon you, and who may turn it back? A fire is sent among you, and who may quench it? Plagues are sent unto you, and what is he who may drive them away? May any man drive away a hungry lion in the wood? Or may anyone quench the fire in stubble when it has begun to burn? May one turn again the arrow that is shot of a strong archer? El Yahuah sends the plagues, and who is he who can drive them away? A fire shall go forth from his wrath. And who is he who may quench it? He shall cast lightnings, and who shall not fear? He shall thunder, and who shall not be afraid? Yahuah shall threaten, and who shall not be utterly beaten to powder at his presence? The earth quakes, and the foundations thereof. The sea arises up with waves from the deep, and the waves of it are troubled, and the fish thereof also before Yahuah, and before the glory of his power. For strong is his right hand that bends the bow. His arrows that he shoots are sharp, and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. Behold, the plagues are sent, and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. The fire is kindled, and shall not be put out, till it consumes the foundation of the earth. Like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer returns not backward, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon the earth shall not return again. Woe is me, woe is me. Who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mourning, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils come? Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Behold, victuals shall be so good and cheap upon the earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. And the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them. For the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. There shall be no man left to till the earth and to sow it. The trees shall give fruit, and who shall gather them? The grapes shall ripen, and who shall tread them? For all places shall be desolate of men, so that one man shall desire to see another, and to hear his voice. For of a city there shall be 10 left, and 2 of the field, which shall hide themselves in thick groves, and in the clefts of the rocks. As in an orchard of olives, upon every tree there are left 3 or 4 olives. Or as when a vineyard is gathered, there are left some clusters of them that diligently seek through the vineyard. Even so, in those days, there shall be 3 or 4 left by them that search their houses with the sword, and the earth shall be laid waste, and the fields thereof shall wax old, and her ways and all her paths shall grow full of thorns, because no man shall travel therethrough. The virgins shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. The women shall mourn, having no men. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers. In the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their men shall perish of famine. Hear now these things and understand them, ye servants of Yahuah. Behold, the word of Yahuah, receive it. Believe not the Elohim of whom Yahuah spoke. Behold, the plagues draw nigh and are not slack. As when a woman with child in the 9th month brings forth her son, with 2 or 3 hours of her birth, great pains compass her womb, which pains, when the child comes forth, they slack not a moment. Even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth, and the world shall mourn, and sorrows shall come upon it on every side. O my people, hear my word. Make you ready to your battle. And in those evils be even as pilgrims upon the earth. He that sells, let him be as he that flees away, and he that buys, as one that will lose. He that occupies merchandise, as he that has no profit by it, and he that builds, as he that shall not dwell therein, and he that sows, as if he should not reap. So also he that plants the vineyard, as he that shall not gather the grapes. They that marry, as they that shall get no children, and they that marry not, as the widowers, and therefore they that labor, labor in vain. For strangers shall reap their fruits, spoil their goods, overthrow their houses, take their children captives. For in captivity and famine shall they get children. And they that occupy their merchandise with robbery, the more they deck their cities, their houses, their possessions, and their own persons, the more will I be angry with them for their sin, says Yahuah. Like as a whore envies a right, honest, and virtuous woman, so shall righteousness hate iniquity when she decks herself, and shall accuse her to her face when he comes that shall defend him that diligently searches out every sin upon the earth. And therefore be ye not like thereunto, nor to the works thereof. For yet a little, and iniquity shall be taken away out of the earth, and righteousness shall reign among you. Let not the sinner say that he has not sinned, for Elohim shall burn coals of fire upon his head, which says before Yahuah Elohim in his glory, I have not sinned. Behold, Yahuah knows all the works of men, their imaginations, their thoughts, and their hearts, which spoke but the word. Let the earth be made, and it was made. Let the heaven be made, and it was created. In his word were the stars made, and he knows the number of them. He searches the deep and the treasures thereof. He has measured the sea and what it contains. He has shut the sea in the midst of the waters, and with his word has he hanged the earth upon the waters. He spreads out the heavens like a vault. Upon the waters he has founded it. In the desert has he made springs of water and pools upon the tops of the mountains, that the floods might pour down from the high rocks to water the earth. He made man and put his heart in the midst of the body and gave him breath, life, and understanding. Yea, and the Ruach El Shaddai, which made all things and searches out all hidden things in the secrets of the earth. Surely he knows your inventions and what ye think in your hearts, even them that sin and would hide their sin. Therefore, has Yahuah exactly searched out all your works, and he will put you all to shame. And when your sins are brought forth, ye shall be ashamed before men, and your own sins shall be your accusers in that day. What will ye do? Or how will ye hide your sins before Elohim and his angels? Behold, Elohim himself is the judge. Fear him. Leave off from your sins and forget your iniquities, to meddle no more with them forever. So shall Elohim lead you forth and deliver you from all trouble. For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you and feed you, being idle, with things offered unto idols. And they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden under foot. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear Yahuah. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear Yahuah. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as gold in the fire. Hear, O ye, my beloved, says Yahuah, behold, the days of trouble are at hand. But I will deliver you from the same. Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for Elohim is your guide, and the guide of them who guard my commandments and precepts, says Yahuah Elohim. Let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities lift themselves up. Woe be unto them that are bound with their sins and covered with their iniquities, like as a field is covered over with bushes, and the path thereof covered with thorns, that no man may travel through. It is left undressed and is cast into the fire to be consumed therewith. This concludes the Apocalypse of Ezra. I want to encourage you now, my friends, if you would, to feel free to post your questions in the chat, and we can kind of go through this, if you'd like, a little bit more independently and determine what it was that was actually being said here and how it may relate to where we are today. Okay, so if you would, I'll go ahead and post your questions. I'm going to take a look and see if I can find Mark Leonard's questions. I know Mark has been asking questions, and somehow I've been missing them week after week. And I want to catch his questions this week if possible. We'll see if I can reach him. But as I say, okay, so Sherry Slama asks, do you know what time period in which Ezra lived? And the answer is yes. And we can determine this by the writing of 3rd Ezra. Ezra Shalishi, or as it's known in some books, 1st Esdras. Because it talks about the completion of the temple at the time of Darius and a certain particular number of years of Darius, which most historians have agreed was 417 BC. So he was writing after 417 BC. So around 400 BC is a great way to find this, right? A great way to, I think that's pretty close. Okay. All right. Keep digging. Thanks. Thanks. Keep digging 7. Keep reading Ezra, Dr. P. Thank you. Yeah. And so here, Make Stupid People Famous writes, how many books did Ezra script and how many are intact and scribed? I mean, that's a great question. Okay, and the answer can actually be found in Ezra, I believe it's chapter 13, that tells you that essentially after the destruction of the temple in 586 BC, almost all of the literature was destroyed. And because almost all of the literature was destroyed, it was rewritten by Ezra. And the text talks about, depending on who you read, that either 92 books were written or 94 were written, but the 22 were reserved in order to reflect the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. The Greeks pushed back against the Council of Jamnia and instead moved it to 24 because that was the number of letters in the Greek alphabet. However, the 22 that were retained for the Tanakh left 70 in reserve. And so technically, Ezra rewrote the entirety of the thing. Thank you, N. Goods. I appreciate that. Thank you, brother. And so as a consequence, because of this, we know for a certainty that Ezra penned First Chronicles, Second Chronicles, First Ezra, Nehemiah, First Esdras, Second Esdras, and probably the book of Malachi were originally penned by Ezra. But the other texts were also rewritten by Ezra. And there are 70 books remaining that have yet to be the Great 70, not the Septuagint, but rather the Great 70, the Great Book of the 70, has yet to be determined as to where it is. Malcolm and I thought it may be in Cyprus, or could possibly be with the Yazidis in eastern Iraq, or it could possibly even be in Armenia. So those are good questions. And thank you for that question. I really appreciate it. All right, let's see what else we have. Whereas a Mashiach would come in 400 years. That's correct. Speaking the Truth asks, does for Ezra say that Mashiach would come in 400 years? Yes, and that he would die. And this was alarming to the rabbis of the day. That's why they didn't want to publish the book, because it was deadly accurate. And it was almost exactly 400 years that it happened. So if this was written in, let's say, 403 BC, exactly 400 years later, Mashiach would be born. And thank you, Sherry. This group of scriptures is very, very difficult. I think I gave a warning on the YouTube, a warning saying this is not for people who are timid of heart, because this apocalypse is probably the most difficult apocalypse of all the apocalyptic literature, even including Revelation, right? Yes, and Lily Nazareth says that redacted, Mel Gibson is about to expose all of them, announces this is going to be a very, I understand that Mel Gibson does have a program coming out that's going to be extremely significant, and it could be good to see this. Debbie Johnson, I'm glad. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for saying. I'm glad you appreciated this. Lunatic Fringe 178, and I sympathize with that view. Lunatic Fringe. For Ezra is one of my favorite texts. Same with me. It's such a beautiful book. I love the book. All the writing, it is incredibly powerful and is really wonderful. And not including the apocalypse. I mean, even including the apocalypse is the best way to open. Okay, let's see. All right, how many books does the Ethiopian Bible have, says Slender? That is, my understanding is that the Ethiopian Bible had 92 books in it, had 92. And the Ethiopian text, which is the earliest Bible ever compiled with its 92 books, included things like the DDK, and it also had Hanok or Enoch and the Book of Jubilees. Both of those were contained in the Ethiopian text, the earliest Bible ever assembled. Okay, and it preceded the Aramaic Bible, it preceded the Septuagint, and so the Ethiopian Bible remains credible. And in fact, when we first presented the Cepher, We presented it with 87 books at a church in Bellevue, Washington. And the first question that was asked me was, aren't you worried you're going to burn in hell for having put this many books together? And the person standing next to him was an Ethiopian gentleman who immediately said, oh, no, we had 92 books in our Bible, so this is perfectly fine. He was completely in agreement. It was only the American who'd been trained on Westcott and Hort that thought these other writings were absolutely, out of bounds for anyone to read. And by doing so, when a person says that the other scriptures are out of bounds to read, they become easily manipulated by spin doctors inside the church. And here's a great deal of greeting for N. Goods. N. Goods, it is really good to see you. You're such a great mind. It's great to have you around, just to let you know. So Bird Malware writes, if there are 92 books, are we missing 5? Now, these 5 books that we're talking about, I'm not completely sure which 5 books are missing. And actually, if you want to know the truth of it, there are a number of books inside the Ethiopian text, not just 5, that are different from the 87 that are in the Cepher. And some of the books, like the DDK, we did include in the book Havot. If you pick up the book Havot, you will find some of that. And we've included a lot of other writings that are what some people might call extra scriptural in the book Shemaim, in the book Breshith, and in the book Havot. And so some of this is overlap as to what's found in the Ethiopian Bible. You can get those books at Cepher.net, Havot, or the Fathers, Shemaim, or the Heavens, and Breshith, or Beginnings. And so there are a number of books there that are worthy of the read. Okay. All right, let's see. Okay, now, Mark Leonard, I'm not seeing any of your questions. If you're here present for this presentation, I'm not seeing you in the chat there, brother. And if you are in the chat, I would like to answer your questions, but I'm just not seeing you. Okay, yeah, so the Sinister RP, the Tawahedo Orthodox Bible, we have 81 books. Now, it is the Tawahedo, is this the Ethiopian or the Eritrean? And is it the construct originally created in the 2nd century? Because I have seen that Bible had 92 books. Okay, and Debbie says that she loves her Cepher and would highly recommend it. Thank you, Debbie, appreciate that. Nehemiah Gordon says that the Catholic Church has the New Testament in Hebrew. And Lori, I have heard this, and it is true, but it's not only the Catholic Church that has the New Testament in Hebrew, but the New Testament in Hebrew can be found at Cambridge University in the United Kingdom. I believe it's a 4th century work that was brought in from India. And there's also a copy of the entirety of Scripture, or what you would call the 66 book Bible, in Jerusalem, in the archives there. So there's copies in Jerusalem, one at the Vatican, and one at Cambridge University. And probably the best source is the one at Cambridge University. So Nehemiah Gordon is correct. Catholic Church does have the New Testament in Hebrew. That's correct. Okay, but is it an original Hebrew? That's another story. Okay, fishing permit at least for your new fishing boat. Yeah, I'll pray for that, lunatic friends. You bet. May the Heavenly Father hear your prayer, that your prayer to have a permit be released to you for your fishing boat come true, and that he would answer that prayer very quickly, promptly. I agree with you on that prayer, brother. Okay, all right. So keep stating fallen angels coming out. Yeah, fallen angels. Yeah, that's possible. That's possible that what we're talking about. The fallen angels. Now, someone asked, are all the fallen angels locked up? The answer is no. There were 200 that came to earth and caused a lot of trouble, but there was a third of heaven that fell. So that's a lot of fallen angels, right? Okay, Cindy MacArthur asks, thoughts on Canadian fires and how they originated? Well, I mean, there's some really good question. I mean, there's been pictures of helicopters flying through setting fires, but other people have said, oh no, well, those helicopters setting the fires were doing that to cause a fire break or a backblast or something. Well, maybe, but I can tell you those fires look intentionally lit, and they're being lit to show people how bad climate change is and how you need to get away from fossil fuel and switch over to just having solar power. And of course, all of this is a plan to shut down electricity for the Western world so that people might die and reduce the population. Okay, is this judgment or Yah's wrath? Okay, now, Alicia, it's both. Judgment and Yah's wrath are one of the two, they're pretty much the same. At least Yah's wrath is part and parcel of his judgment. And so we see that the Western world is being judged continually. And the things of wickedness in this world that are being caused by the Western world, which is now in unbridled wickedness. I mean, I think we saw here in Ezra that the wickedness that he described in the opening of chapter 15 is on the earth now as we speak. We are in the most wicked time in human history right now. It is competitive with the wickedness that was found at the time of Noah and exceeds all the wickedness of all the other times of man in the history of man. We have arrived really at the great cup of iniquity. And that great cup of iniquity, at the tip of that spear sits Babylon, which is the Western world, primarily in the United States. Although the United States is not necessarily the leader right now. I mean, the leader really comes out of the Third Reich, which is a group of leaders, represented by the World Economic Forum, represented by the international banking community, represented by the Davos group, represented by the Bilderbergers, et cetera. This group of international corporations who are being led around by the AI that appears to sit resident at BlackRock, determining what people's views should be and forcing unconstitutional and unorthodox and unlawful, in fact, criminal aspects on the world. Criminal iniquity is being forced on the whole world by some very, very wicked people. And if they listen to the opening of this passage, they would know what is in store for them. Yah's wrath is about to come upon the whole earth, and they will be experiencing that. Okay. Thank you, Sherry Pavin. She has Shemaim. She loves the book. Thank you, Sherry. I like the book myself, I have to tell you. All right. Rachel asks, is Cepher Publishing releasing any more other books this year? And the answer is we are looking to do a number of things. One is that we've been preparing very extensive lexicon, and we would love to publish it this year, but we've had massive price increases from our printer, and we have not passed those price increases on to the public. So as a result, we don't have much in the coffers to allow us to print new books. So if you guys can support us by, recommending the Cepher to a friend, or to other family members and so on, or to congregations. And I'd like to remind you that we do have congregation pricing. If the whole congregation wants to buy the Cepher, you're going to get a major discount when you buy more than 4 cases of books. Okay. But we do have, this is what we're looking at. Now, someone, Lily writes, Miles Jones has a Hebrew New Testament from Kuchin, India. That's correct. Miles Jones in Texas does have a copy of that. That's correct. And he got that copy from Cambridge University. Okay. Okay. Yeah, George. The large print Cephers have been printed. They're being shipped. I don't know how long it's going to take them to get here. We have a friend in South Africa that's now handling our shipping. Blessings to you, Robin. And he's going to be doing great work. So we're gonna try to get those to you as quick as we can. Okay. All right. Let's see what we have here. Is the Ethiopian Tewahedo Orthodox Bible and the original in Ge'ez actually is 88 books, but the standard is 81, ending on Revelation. Well, see, there you go. Okay. Well, thank you, Sinister RP. Appreciate that information. That's good news. So the original in Ge'ez was 88, but the standard is 81. And that is really quite good. Okay, let's see. Oh, let's see. I just bounced ahead here a whole bunch. Let me see if I can get back here. Okay, let's see. Where are we here? What are my thoughts on New York and possible 3 days of darkness? But this is not it yet, Debbie. This is a precursor, and this fumigation of New York is again a huge distraction. In fact, I think the setting of this fire may be to try to obfuscate radar and satellite imagery from seeing what's going on in the Northeast, because there may be something coming up here on June 14th that may cause us to enter into World War III at a real serious level. We're getting ready to do an exercise over Europe that includes 200 fighter aircraft. That's going to be, I don't know if they're going to be imposing a no-fly space over Ukraine or not, but if they do, it's going to get very serious very quickly. Okay, so for some of you that are, that are prepping, this is the way to do it. Okay, now Bird Malware writes, was Cain killed by his collapsed house or a bow and arrow? Okay, now this is something that we have. This is something that's very interesting because we have different recitation of facts in the books Jasher and Jubilee talking about these things. Okay, but we also have different recitation of facts that occur even inside the 66 book Bible. For instance, at the end of First Kings, we see that Shaul kills himself, falls on his own sword. But at the beginning of Second Kings, we have some guy admit to David that he was the one that killed Shaul, and David puts him to death. So those are, factual differences. In the New Testament, of course, Judas hangs himself until you get to another portion of the New Testament where his guts fall out in Potter's field. So these things are very interesting. Now, I think the story, Cain being killed by a bow and arrow, is consistent with the passage that's found in Genesis when it talks about Lamech, who was the last in the line, or he was the seventh generation of Cain, and the father of Tubal-Cain, who was the eighth in that generation, that Tubal-Cain and he and Lamech had gone hunting, and Tubal-Cain told Lamech, oh, look, there's a deer. And Lamech fired at the deer, and it turned out to be Cain, his great-great-great-grandfather, the one who had slayed Abel. And he died when? Upon the completion of 7 generations. And Lamech was so mad, he beat Tubal-Cain to death. Now, Genesis tells us that he killed a man to his shame and a young man to his dishonor. And that's all we get. But in the book of Jasher, we get the rest of the dissertation about what happened. And so now it becomes a little bit more understandable. So the question is, what was it, right? Okay, now let's see. What did Alicia say? Alicia said that she will pay any price to get that. And what are you looking for here, Alicia? That you would pay any price for? I don't know. Okay, well, yeah. Well, thanks for that comment. Let's see here. All right. Joy Ribbon, I can't wrap my head around all the evil that's going on. Yeah, it is amazing, Joy, but when you see all the evil that's going on, it's like nonstop. I mean, I know you're feeling. It's like there was an evil thing today and they didn't relent. Before you can get used to that evil being in the world, they come up with another evil. Then they come up with another evil, and then another evil, and another evil. And it just keeps going and going and going. And there's no relenting now. And it's just as was said here in 4 Ezra, that once the birth pains stop, there's no relenting until the child is born. And what we're seeing is the birth pains have started. The birth pains of this great time of trouble has started, and they're not relenting. They keep going and keep going and keep going. So we just have to do what is recommended here. Okay, be faithful unto Yah, admit your sin, recognize that you are a sinner, right? If any man says he is without sin, he is a liar. Okay, so recognize that we have sin before Yah, and more importantly, don't decorate yourselves into the world and put on further trappings when the time has come now to be prepared to live life as a pilgrim. This is what was said there in that passage. Be prepared to live as a pilgrim. And that means that, a good thing of preparation would be to get an appropriate tent that can fit on a backpack, get an appropriate backpack that's a very high quality hiking backpack. Make sure you've got an excellent pair of hiking boots that are going to weather out the storm, that you can wear and that fit like a glove. And then, start taking a look at what you would like to have if you were a pilgrim. If you're out and you have to trek the wilderness for the next 3 years or 4 years, what do you want to look like? Okay. And James Coletti says, we love our Cepher large print, and they put in the tabs. Yeah, the ladies that put in the tabs, they really are quite professional. They just do an excellent job compared to me, who leaves, kind of greasy fingerprints all over the tabs and 2 pages stuck together. Not bad. Okay. Yeah. So here, somebody's saying that in Ontario, that they had inordinate snow that left a blue color that may have been an accelerant. Okay, let me see here. I don't know where all these things when they keep losing this stuff. Okay. Let's see. Judas hanged himself over a steep area. When he was cut down, his body fell and broke open. Well, that's the story that is told in the church, Lily. That's not what's told in the scripture, but that's the story that's told in the church to justify those facts, right? All right, let's see what else we have here. We are going through, yeah, we are going through it. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Ezra is basically absent in the DSS. What are your thoughts? Why do you think it smells fishy? Well, I can tell you that when we go back and talk about the preservation of text, preservation of scripture, there's a couple of things. I mean, one is that when you talk about the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Dead Sea Scrolls are a selection that was made by the Essenes, okay? And the Essenes copied texts. Now, I don't know where they had, what source they had for copying those texts, but we cannot necessarily say that the DSS is dispositive. And the reason why I say that is because that the DSS, the three copies of Isaiah disagree with one another. There were more copies of Jubilees and Enoch than there were of the Torah. And so we have this kind of a situation. So when we talk about something smelling fishy, I mean, all I can tell you is that when we look at the word of the text, now remember also too that the 70 books that were part of the Ezra collection had been removed, and that initially what was kept, and this is what was kept also by the Essenes or whoever it was that was keeping it at Qumran, they were keeping the 22 books that were primary to the Tanakh. Okay, they were primary to the Tanakh, and that's what they kept. Okay, Brenda Jones, please rewrite your question if you would, so I can see it down here, because I won't be able, if I go up and start looking, I won't be able to find it. Okay, so I don't think it smells fishy. I think that what we need to look at is that when you look at the ancient texts and the ancient manuscripts, we find a number of things that are, well, a little bit bizarre. One thing we know for sure is that there are no originals of anything. And so we have to kind of piece it together. Okay. All right, let me see here just a minute. Okay, my thoughts on the KAOS has my thoughts on the Book of the Nazarene. Well, again, the Book of the Nazarene is similar to the Essene Humane Gospel. And I think it's a beautiful book, but it has doctrine that is outside the scope of, and that appears to have doctrine that is somewhat different than the scope of the text, of the generally accepted text. Okay. All right, let's see. Okay, got to learn hunting with a bow and get a sword on my back. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, hunting with a bow, that's a good idea. Or even a crossbow if you're a bad shot. And getting a sword is another question, but I don't know about a sword, but a good utility. There's some really good utility weapons out there. Like, for instance, a shovel that has a sword and a knife in it and a compass on it. I don't know if the quality of the steel in there. You want to make sure that you have really good quality steel and a really good quality knife as well. Okay. Governor Newsom allowed this war on his own people. Yeah. Okay. So this is a discussion about, somebody said that there was directed energy weapons used in California, and that appears to be the case. I'm not going to say dispositively that was the case, but that appears to be the case. I mean, when you have, for instance, I saw evidence of a fire that took place in Sonoma County, where the McDonald's and the Applebee's and I don't know, Taco Bell maybe, were burned to the ground, and the trees around it were completely untouched. I don't know how that happened, and the fire was so intense that even the grill melted, right? Okay, and Debbie asked the question, could the snake bite being given be affecting people mentally? Yeah, and I think it depends upon the which snake bite you got, because I forget what there was, 21 different ones that they put into the country as part of their experiment using human beings as guinea pigs, which they could do under the authorized, the UAE, the authorized experimental use. And so, yeah, and there is a form of it that is affecting people mentally. People who report that they could no longer feel Yah, for instance, that was part of it. Okay, let's see. What else do we have? Um, what else do we have? Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see. Brenda Jones, would you consider adding the corrected books of Ezekiel and Daniel with the tradition? Yeah, I would. Now, but here's the thing, Brenda, and this is why we haven't done it, because correcting Daniel, of course, is not that significant an issue. The reason Daniel 5 and 6 are put together, or maybe it's 4 and 5, is because there's a prophecy there concerning 2,560 days that appears both in many, many Tekel Upharsin and also the number of days that that Nebuchadnezzar is eating grass. Okay, so it would be moving one chapter in Daniel. Ezekiel is a different issue, and people would not recognize Ezekiel. We do have Ezekiel in corrected order as a free download on the Cepher website. You can go there and print it out if you want. And it's there, and you'll see what I'm talking about, because when you read it in corrected order, it's kind of unrecognizable to people who've spent a lot of time in Ezekiel, particularly who want to find Ezekiel 36 or Ezekiel 38, whatever, right? Okay, so Heather says, looking for fellowship in Alaska, and you're in the Wasilla area. Well, okay, Heather. Look, Heather, you need to write me at, write me at Stephen@Cepher.net. Okay. If you're in the Wasilla area, guess what? We'll have a place for you. But write me, because we meet tomorrow night. Okay, so write me, right? All right, let's see. Should we be defending ourselves to the death or even at all? Well, now this is a question. This is a personal question. I mean, I know a lot of men that are going to defend their wives and their kids, period. And because to not defend them is to engage in a conspiracy to kill them or to have them raped or whatever is going to happen. So self-defense is a natural right, part of the right of being alive. Okay. The question of, but the question of when do you defend and when do you help? Because, there are people that we need to take a look at and say, gee, should I defend myself against this person or should I feed him? Those are questions. It's something you're going to have to ask in your own heart, and pray that the Ruach be around you at all times, because you don't want to be in a situation where you have to make that decision. But when you are, it's nice to have very clear confirmation from Yah that what you're doing is correct. Okay, in that particular circumstance. Okay. All right, let's see. Let's see. Yeah, and as for Newsom dining at a restaurant with no mask, let me tell you something. The mask is absolutely useless. The mask is no better at stopping the virus than a chain link fences and keeping out mosquitoes. Okay, it doesn't do a thing. What it does do is it traps bacteria. And in fact, I have something up on my Telegram page that shows that Shinadri forwarded to me. It's a picture of the mask that's been worn for 2 hours and then put in a petri dish to see what kind of bacteria forms on the mask. It's enough to make you gag. It's really, really bad. Okay. So the masks are absolutely horrible for you. That's the worst thing you could ever do. And it doesn't stop the virus at all. Okay, let's see about the new California law to make it legal to kill babies up to 28 days old. Well, you saw it before Ezra, Helenia, Abu Karash. You saw it in Ezra, saying that the innocent blood is going to cry out and that Yah is going to exact retribution for the innocent blood. Brenda says, printed the download. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Brenda. I hope you enjoy it. Right. The 29th chapter of Acts is awesome. That suicide of Pilate was gruesome. Well, it's true, though. There is a mountain in Switzerland that's well known by the Swiss that he did, in fact, commit suicide on that mountain. Right. Okay. I'm all the way down in Haines, so I may be a bit late. Yeah. Well, I know I drove here in Haines. Yeah. I drove from Haines, back in March, and I know how long of a drive that is. It took me, I think, 11 hours, right? Yeah. Okay, let's see, what else do we have here? Okay. Okay, so Slender says, I have a non-believing wife. What should I tell her? Well, don't tell her. Ask her and pray for her. Ask her and pray for her. Remember that it's going to be incomprehensible to her unless she's touched by grace. Otherwise, it'll be incomprehensible to her. Okay. So that's something to think about, right? So don't tell her, ask her. Ask questions. Okay. All right, let's see. Many people in Oregon are still wearing masks. I know you love, don't you love the people that are driving in their car wearing a mask? I'm preventing myself from giving myself COVID. They say the N95 mask protects against smoke damage. I doubt it. I doubt it too. It may for a little bit, but not much. Okay, if you want to get a mask that works, you need a gas mask. Okay. Okay. All right. So with that, I'm sorry, Mark Leonard, I didn't see any of your questions on here, brothers. So if you wrote me on the chat, I didn't see any of them. Okay. All right. So you guys, I want to thank you for being with me as part of tonight's stream on the Apocalypse of Ezra. We're going to continue on this Apocalypse series for a little bit more, and then it looks like we're going to be restarting the dig shortly thereafter. So I want to thank you guys for being here. You guys are terrific. It's a terrific group of people. Remember, you can find us on Telegram on the World Assembly of Yahuah, the Way. That is a public Telegram place. You just go to the Telegram site, find the join thing, and join it. You can also catch my daily broadcast on Radio Free Alaska. I broadcast at 2 p.m. Alaskan time, 3 p.m. Pacific, on Radio Free Alaska 5 days a week. Okay. I also have a Stephen Pigeon channel that's available on Telegram. And you can catch a number of Cepher channels, including Cepher Shabbat and other channels that are available on Telegram as well. Okay. So you guys stay in touch. And then as you stay in touch, we'll be in touch back and forth. And may we all be blessed with our healing ministry between us. Watch out for each other and consider what our life will look like as pilgrims in this world. Okay. So brothers and sisters, blessings to you in the name of Yahuah, and I will see you again soon.